Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the former Australian captain, Steve Waugh. Australians usually come from the front. They
I was
don't
told to go around the back, so...
They don't hit you from the end. But, let me start with where we left off in that brief conversation there. Steve Waugh was having a cup of tea with Rahul Gandhi. And Rahul Gandhi said that Steve Waugh, a couple of years ago, told him the difference between, or Rahul Gandhi asked Steve Waugh, what's the difference between an Australian cricket team and an Indian cricket team? And Steve Waugh apparently told something which Rahul Gandhi claims he now tells his Congress party. Now, of course, the Congress party is lost, so we don't know whether the mantra worked or not. That's another matter. But the fact is that it's obviously something which has stayed in his mind for the last couple of years. So what is it, Steve, that you told Rahul Gandhi? And what is this big difference between an Australian cricket side and an Indian cricket side?
Firstly, I can't remember what I said because I was a bit overawed having dinner with Rahul Gandhi, and it was a very nice meal, so I was concentrating on my food. But what did I say about the difference? I think, look, there's not a lot of difference now between the Australian and Indian sides, the way they play. I think in previous years, say 20 years ago, we probably played with a fair bit of aggression on the field. We were very positive. I think we're in the opposition's face, where India was a bit more laid back, played in a different style. The two styles of the side now sort of merged quite a bit because everyone is playing IPL, the players know each other, there's no real secrets between the players. They realise that at the end of the day they're all pretty good fellas and they get on well and they got the same interests. But back in those days we didn't really know each other, so there was a bit of distance between the sides. So I would say 15 years ago Australia played with probably a little bit more hardness and toughness. But Sourav Ganguly was probably the first captain that tended to change that perception on the way India played, and now you've got people like Virat Kohli, who plays in a very aggressive manner. He plays in a very Australian way. MS Dhoni's been a fantastic captain for India. He plays with that steely aggression, but he's got that very composed outlook and he keeps his team very calm. So I would say Australia and India play a pretty similar brand of cricket right now.
I was looking for an answer which I thought was the answer, which is that Indians tend to put the individual above team and the Australians put team above individual. Is that what you said to him?
No, I didn't say that to him, no. You can't put words in my mouth. It's a good story and a good headline, but I didn't say that. Look, I think there is some merit to what you say. I think because there's 1.2 billion people supporting India, statistics are very important. Indians, you guys win the statistics and everything. You got the most of everything. So, you Tendulkar the most hundreds, most runs. I think that's something for people to celebrate and get behind. And perhaps sometimes those milestones mean so much to the people watching that the players perhaps may inadvertently play for those. Where Australia, I think we always play for the win as quickly as we can, and sometimes that individual milestones get sacrificed along the way. So there may be a little bit of truth to what you say there.
And one more thing that seems to have changed is that for years the Australians were seen as, you said aggressive, many felt abusive. I mean, under that gentle demeanor of yours today, when you were on the cricket field, you reportedly, the Australians liked the idea of sledging. Now I see Virat Kohli do it. Do you believe that the Indians have in a sense imbibed that with Australia? Is that the Australian way of life? That you look people in the face and when you're on the field, if you have to sledge them, you will.
Well, I think I've just been sledged by you for the last 30 seconds. That's what I call a sledge. Was that a sledge? Yes.
No, not really.
I'm happy to take it. That's fine. But look, I think I've played against many Indian sides who had quite a number of players who didn't mind a bit of talk out in the middle. Harbhajan Singh is one that springs to mind straight away. He was never shy in saying what he thought on the field. But yeah, look, there's a fine line. Look, banter or sportsmanship, gamesmanship, that's the way we're brought up in Australia. I mean, in the backyard, when I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, there was 4 brothers playing and it was full on. It was like a serious test match out the back and we got stuck into each other. There was plenty of things that were said between each other, and that's the way we grew up playing our sport. So maybe at that international level, it can be perceived sometimes the wrong way. There were times, I guess, where we crossed over the line. I hope that was very rare, because I like to think the Australian side played in a hard but fair way, and after the game we were always friends with the side and had a drink. These days, I think again the IPL has had a really positive impact on the relationships between players and teams. They get to know each other, they become friends, and I think you've seen some of that animosity dissipate over the last couple of years when players actually know each other pretty well and they're good mates.
You keep mentioning the IPL. Do you believe that's become the big, going into this World T20? Would I be right in saying that Steve Waugh also believes that India are the favourites to win the World T20 because of the IPL and the experience that India has had in playing T20 cricket? Would you pitch India as the favourites despite the fact that we've lost the first game to New Zealand?
Well, I've got the benefit of having that information now, and I'd probably say they're not as strong favourites as they were 4 days ago. But look, they've got a team that's very capable of winning this T20 World Cup, but you can see by the format, and there's been 5 previous T20 World Cups where 5 different sides have won. I think as you compact the game, the element of luck comes into it a lot more, whereas Test cricket tests you out over 5 days. It tests you out, physically, mentally, technically, socially and emotionally. And so there's a lot of things come into play there, whereas T20 cricket, it's over in a couple of hours, and that brings together, most teams become more even. It can depend on one player having a great day, and so that side can beat any other side. That's why there's no real clear favourites in 2020, and you saw straight away how New Zealand, every match report I saw, or preview of that match, said that New Zealand would struggle because they didn't have quality spinners. Next minute they take 9 wickets and bowl India out for 79. So it is a very unpredictable form of the game, and that's why it's hard to say who the clear-cut favourites are. If you had most people analysing it before the tournament, a high percentage would say Australia, India and probably South Africa are the 3 favourites, but I think any one of these, probably 7 or 8 sides could actually win it.
But if you had to pick one?
I had to pick one. Look, it's really tough. Give me some time on that one. Give me about 20 minutes to have a think about it.
Okay, I'll give you 20 minutes. It's an Indian audience. You can always say India. Okay,
well, if I don't say India, I won't make it out of the room alive, will I?
If it had to be India versus Pakistan, which is the other big game on Saturday, which you're going to Calcutta to see, do you believe that there is a gap between these two teams, that before the match you'd pick India over Pakistan?
Not necessarily, although India has a very good record against Pakistan in T20s. 6 out of 7 games they've won, but that really is irrelevant coming into a World Cup, because that's sort of a lot of those players hadn't played in those previous games. India has, and I know what the pressure is like of playing a World Cup on your home soil. In 1992 in the World Cup, we missed out on the semi-finals when we were hot favourites to win the 50-over game, and I think sometimes it is a little bit harder playing in front of your home crowd. You've got that expectation, but you've also got family and friends constantly talking about the game. Even little things like organising tickets and getting families to games, that can be a bit of a distraction which you haven't got when you play away from your home country. Losing the first game puts enormous amount of pressure on India. But if there's one guy who can handle pressure, that's MS Dhoni. He seems unflappable and doesn't seem like pressure affects him at all. It's just he's impervious to it. But Pakistan I think I'll feed off the fact that India lost the first game and they won the first game. They will play with a relaxed frame of mind. I like the way Shahid Afridi has already embraced the fact that he enjoys playing in India. He gets better support, I think he said, from India than he does back home, which was a little bit controversial. Javed Miandad didn't like that, but I thought it was a smart move from the Pakistan captain. They've got a young, unpredictable team batting-wise, and their bowling is very incisive. They've got some quick bowlers. If they can take early wickets, I see this as a 50-50 game. India, they're going to have their work cut out to win the next game. If they don't win that, then it's going to be a hard road from there.
You're leaving us more and more depressed with every answer that you give.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be honest. But yeah, look, I think India, in my mind, look, I'll go back to your previous question. I think India are still the favourites to win this World Cup.
Okay. Oh, good.
So I probably totally confused you there, but...
Now I know how you'd get under the skin of Indians when you were playing. But how is, this whole 2020 format which is there, do you believe it's it's, as someone once called it, Mickey Mouse cricket. Is it still Mickey Mouse cricket where, really you can bowl 4 overs, you score 30 runs and be a match winner? Do you really see it now having become part of the game, or is it still Mickey Mouse cricket?
No, it's not Mickey Mouse cricket. I mean, when I played Test cricket, one-day cricket was sort of just coming in, and people said it was a pajama game, it was a bit of fun, there's no skill involved. Yet the top cricketers always find a way to play that format of the cricket better than someone else. And I'll give you a good example. Michael Bevan really revolutionised middle order batting in one-day cricket. When I first started playing, I batted 5 and 6. We had a game plan where Marsh and Boone would bat most of the overs with Border and Dean Jones. Myself and Simon O'Donnell would come in for the last 5 overs, and basically we would just slog. We didn't practice it in the nets. We just went out there and hoped for the best. And we were okay. We weren't overly successful. Then Michael Bevan came into the team, and he just thought about, if I got 15 overs to go, he'd work out which bowlers were going to bowl those overs. Then he'd work out, okay, I can attack that bowler. He's a bit of a weak bowler. I can defend that other bowler. If I need 30 runs to win off 20 balls, I can afford to have 10 singles. I can probably play and miss or not score off 2 or 3 balls. I know I'm going to score 5 fours. That means I can win the game. So he analysed it to the nth degree, and he became the great batsman in the middle orders. Now players are analysing 2020 cricket, and they're working out how they can become better players. So the good players always find a way, and their skill level is involved, because if there wasn't skill level involved, then anyone could be a good T20 player, and that's not the case.
That's interesting. Since you're speaking of skill, if I were to pick, because Indians are often subjective and partisan about this, but Virat Kohli, for example, would you say that he is the best batsman in the world, as some call him? Or is that an Indian way of looking at it? An Australian would say Steve Smith is the best batsman in the world. Who for you, across formats, but particularly in the shorter formats, is possibly the best player in the world? Is it a Virat,
it's
a Smith, or someone else?
Very hard to say. Test cricket is a little bit different. I think you got people like Smith and Kane Williamson, A.B. de Villiers, Virat Kohli, Dave Warner, a lot of players who are great players. Without doubt, the best 2020 player in the world, in my mind, stats-wise, is Virat Kohli. I think he averages 52 in 2020 cricket with a strike rate over 120. I mean, that's unheard of, particularly when you compare to someone like another contemporary great player is Steve Smith, who averages 20 in the 2020 format. So that shows how good a player Kohli has been. A.B. de Villiers, I think, is definitely up there in the 2020 format. And of course, you got someone like Chris Gale, who you saw last night, can win a match just by himself. And if he has a great tournament, the West Indies can win this 2020 World Cup. There's no doubt about it, because when he's in form, it doesn't matter which bowler's bowling or which ground he's at. The grounds aren't big enough. So if one person has a great World Cup, they can win it for their team. But I think if I had to pick one batsman that I would want in my T20 side, it would be Virat Kohli.
That's a big call that you're making there about Virat Kohli. If I were to then stretch it to a Indian comparison, because you played a lot of cricket with Sachin Tendulkar, is Virat Kohli slowly becoming almost as good a player as Sachin Tendulkar was? I know it's a big call again, but is it possible that Virat Kohli now is almost in the league of a Tendulkar across formats?
You're up for a headline here, aren't you? The ratings are going to go up if I say this. No, he's got some work to do. I mean, Tendulkar scored 100 international centuries. Kohli is well on the way. But I played against some other great Indian batsmen who I consider, fantastic players also, like Rahul Dravid was an amazing player. Probably didn't get the kudos that someone like Tendulkar did, but I think he probably won just as many matches for India the way he played. VVS Laxman, who we just couldn't get out. I think he was the world's best player against us, and then the world's worst player against teams like Bangladesh and other teams like that. So I don't know what he had against us, but we couldn't get him out. He was a great player, but yeah, Tendulkar is one of the all-time great players. There's no doubt about that. Kohli has a way to go, but there's something about Kohli. He's got that fierce determination. He loves batting. He loves scoring big runs, but he also enjoys the monumental pressure of carrying 1.2 million Indians on his shoulder every time he walks out the bat. You can see that he actually enjoys that. Some players lift under those circumstances, others just find the weight of expectation too much. But you can tell that Kohli he embraces it, and that is a huge plus for India.
He's almost Australian like in that sense. I mean, in the way he sort of carries himself on the cricket field.
What are you saying? He's a sledger, are you?
I didn't say that.
Well, you said he was Australian. You said we all sledge, so that means he's a sledger.
Well,
You said that, not me.
Well, he's got these tattoos. He does things which Indian cricketers 10 years ago would never do.
You're
No
right.
Indian cricketer had a tattoo 10 years ago.
No Australian cricketer had a tattoo 10 years ago either.
That's
I didn't have one, but look, he's a modern day cricketer, and look, kids all around the world love the way he plays. I just like how he's technically very, very correct. Even in the 2020 stuff, he plays, I guess, so-called proper cricket shots. He rarely goes for a reverse sweep or a ramp shot. He would prefer to play the cover drive or the flick over the leg side. So he's a fantastic player to watch, and but this will really test him out because India in this situation where they're backed into the corner a bit, they need fighters. I mean, Dhoni will come out, there's no doubt about that, but he'll need a couple of other guys coming with him under pressure.
You've mentioned Dhoni a couple of times. Do you believe that's the key in a sense to win a World Cup? You won a World Cup famously when you scored that 100, which lifted your team when you were in a desperate situation. Does the captain, in a sense, have to lead the way in a World Cup? You cannot win a World Cup if the captain doesn't have a great World Cup.
No doubt about that. I mean, and he's the guy that he seems to have that Midas touch. Whenever India needs someone or something to happen, he's the go-to man, and he gives, I think, all Indians that sense of comfort. When he walks to the wicket, you pretty much know that he's going to do a good job. I think, is that a fair comment to say? Put your hand up if you think when Dhoni walks the wicket he's going to do something good. I think most people think that, and the opposition know that as well. So that's a huge plus for his team, that under pressure, when it counts the most, he generally delivers, and that's a huge thing for a captain to do because other players feed off that. He'll be needed in this World Cup, obviously. I still think he's a great player, particularly the short formness of the game. His record as a batsman is incredible. As a keeper, I think he's played 63 2020 games. The next most by any other keeper from any other country is something like 22. So that shows how resilient and tough he is. But he's going to need that, particularly on Saturday night at Eden Gardens. That's going to be one of the toughest moments of his cricketing career.
Steve, if you were to put together a complete cricketer, complete batsman, what ingredients would he have, would you like him to have? Vivian Richards' pull, Tendulkar's straight drive?
It's a difficult question to answer. Look, I go for Mike Hussey's cover drive. I think he has the best cover drive of all time. I think Tendulkar's appetite for runs, maybe Viv Richards' body language, his swagger, Ponting's pull shot. What else we got there? We're probably missing a few shots. Let me think.
Somebody's defense, or
Yes.
Steve Waugh allowing the ball to hit his chest time and again.
Yeah, that's stupidity, I think that is. Best defence, Rahul Dravid. I mean, he wasn't called the Wall for nothing. I mean, he had the best defence I'd seen. There's, Jacques Callis is a beautiful player as well. It's really hard to put it all together, but I think the one thing a great player needs is tremendous concentration to stay in the moment, to assess the situation of the match, have match awareness. Look, I think Steve Smith would be in there purely because he's the best gap hitter I've ever seen of any cricketer. So Steve Smith, if you watch him bat, he rarely hits the ball to a fieldsman. That's why he scores so many runs. Even though his technique is not great, he finds the gaps incredibly well.
Which bowler do you think could change the game from any team? And if you have a chance to join any of these teams in today's age, which team would you join to be an all-rounder apart from Australia?
So which bowler do you think will have an impact on this World Cup?
Yeah.
That's an interesting comment. I tell you what, it's really hard to work out which bowler. Look, I know he's not playing, but Mitchell Stark is a big loss for Australia. I think he's potentially the best bowler in the world right now, particularly in the shorter forms of the game. Swing the ball at 150 k's an hour. He's a huge loss for Australia. I'm just trying to think in the other sides. Look, I like Rabada from South Africa. I don't think he'll be the most influential bowler here, but it's great to see a young quick come on the scene, and he's quick, and he's you know, he's raw, and he's ready to go. So he's fantastic. You know, I get the feeling that a spinner will have a huge impact on this World Cup. And look, you saw New Zealand straight away. It was pretty amazing. So for India to do well, I think Ashwin has got to have a really good World Cup. And look, our old nemesis Harbhajan Singh, he might have to play a role at some stage. I mean, you know, he killed us back in 2001. Surely he should have retired after that. He did enough in that series to sort of, you know, wine and dine for the rest of his life. But he's still playing, which is a credit to him. Which side would I like to play in right now? Look, I'll tell you the side I'm really impressed with, and they're not going to win this 2020 World Cup, but is Afghanistan. I just can't believe how much they've improved in such a short space of time. And I've watched a few of their games in the last couple of weeks, and I just like their attitude. Their fielding is excellent. They play a really good brand of cricket, and their leg spinner the other day, the 17-year-old, I've just forgotten his name, but that was an incredible performance by a 17-year-old, and I think he'll take a lot of wickets in this World Cup. He may well be the star of the World Cup, the 17-year-old leg spinner from Afghanistan.
As we end, I must ask you this. You keep coming back to this country. What is it about India that you love the most? And what is it about India that you dislike the most?
I think I'll pass on the second part of that question because I might be invited back. Look, the first part is I love India because there's always something going on here. It's never boring, it's never dull, it's interesting. There are things I see here that I never see in Australia. In fact, when I go back to Australia, I get out of the airport and I go, where are all the people? What's going on? Why is it so quiet? Well, you go to India, you go in the streets, and I love photography. I like meeting the real people, seeing how they live their lives, and I'm amazed at the spirit of the people in India. Even the people who haven't got much money, they always seem pretty happy with their lives, and they get on with it, and they make the most of difficult situations. So I like the resilience and the spirit of the Indian people.
Well, Steve, you won a few friends by saying that, and you won many friends by all that you've done on and off the cricket field. It's been an honor and pleasure talking to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Waugh.